Getting the smile and confidence you've been dreaming about, all from the comfort of your home, isn't a total mystery with Bite clear aligners. Just don't be surprised if all your friends start asking, "What's your secret?" Begin by ordering your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95. Bite clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer flexible financing, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly minisode where we dig into the things that we've been watching and maybe playing recently. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth. And this week, I forgot everything I watched until Terry reminded me right before we recorded. This week, we are talking about Minnesota, don't you know? Weird Vibes, the movie, old school blockbuster filmmaking at its finest, chilling, literally, horror television, hate watching a scandalous true crime series, wholesome and melancholy anime, and Bad Vibes, the found footage film. So many vibes. Lots of vibes today. Lots of vibes.
Definite vibe episode.
Yeah, before we talk about everything, I was just going to bring up before, I am replaying Crash Bandicoot, all three of them. I have tweeted very niche tweets about levels of Crash Bandicoot that are really difficult. We bought the remaster a while ago, and the McElroys are playing Crash Bandicoot 2, and I was like, holy shit, I love these games. So I've just been replaying them, and that's been my decompression now. I have been looking at way too much depressing social media content, and my brain is on fire. So this has been the way for me to not have my brain on fire as much. And it's on fire, but like in a different way. In a like, I'm a gamer and I definitely press the X button. How dare you not register my jump kind of.
Your tweet about I forget what level it was, but the hard level in Crash Bandicoot reminded me of like my old school playing games of Battletoads where...
Oh, hell yeah.
Where there's like a level where you're on like a bike and you have to like dodge everything. And as a kid, I could never get past that level. That is still, I think, one of the hardest levels of video games. But you got me thinking about all these old games that I played as a kid that were like impossible and frustrating.
Like, and I guarantee you it's like an homage to Battletoads because it's a bike level where you're like on a bike and it's like fucking impossible to win because you have to get first place. Yeah. My husband had to help me because I'm bad. I couldn't do it and I was getting upset. And he is a little bit better at video games than I am. And he also is he's become invested in this with me and likes to watch me play. It's very fun because I'm usually the one watching him play. Yeah. So, yes. Anyway.
That's a cute bonding experience.
Crash Bandicoot because I'm just having fun playing Crash Bandicoot.
As you should.
That's how I bonded with my stepdad when I first moved in with him. Me, him, and my stepbrother would, and my mom would play PlayStation 1 and Crash Bandicoot. And we'd all take turns.
I love that.
That weird little fucker really has a big space in my heart.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Anyway, just a fun little anecdote I wanted to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, wholesome things. Yeah. I also love Minnesota, don't you know?
So I traveled this week, and I like to download things to watch on the plane, and I'd been hearing a lot of good stuff about this new season of Fargo, so I downloaded everything that was available to watch, and I'm not all the way through it yet, so don't reach out to me with spoilers yet, because I think I'm on like episode 5 or 6 of this new season, but boy, is this season good. It is so good, and it makes me really excited because it's, you know, it was created by Noah Hawley, is it Hawley or is it
Hawley, I think.
So it's created by Noah Hawley, and you know he has the Alien series that they're working on that's coming out.
Oh, and he did Legion.
He did Legion. Yes. So like
Oh, okay.
and I had seen like the first, I think maybe 1 or 2 seasons of Fargo, and then I kind of fell off. So like this was a good re-entry point for me, because they're each self-contained seasons. You don't have to know anything about the previous ones to watch it. They just sort of have a similar vibe to them. But watching this made me, because there's a couple episodes on here that lean harder into horror than I was expecting, and it made me so excited for Alien. Just like revisiting like how good of a writer I think Holly is. I think he's a very phenomenal writer who is not afraid to get a little weird. So like this season of Fargo starts out with this this little Minnesotan family, with the main actress slash the mom being Juno Temple, I think is.
Oh, hell yeah.
And she is phenomenal in this. She's like this little mousy kind of mom who's like taking care of, she loves her little daughter. She's married to sort of a milquetoast man who's comes from a very rich family. Played his mom is played by the incredible Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Jennifer Jason Leigh like runs this like billion-dollar empire, and her son is sort of a milquetoast car salesman. And Juno Temple's character Dot is like on this one day when she's at home, she's sort of a stay-at-home mom. 2 men in ski masks break in and attempt to kidnap her. And she goes militant on them with like an aerospray can and like a match to burn one's face. She's like beating the shit out of them. They manage to kidnap her. She gets taken to they're driving away, and they stop at they're pulled over by a cop, and then she like goes all ninja on them and like kicks the shit out of them and keeps running to a gas station, and it turns into this big whole thing. And she ends up escaping and getting back home while her husband has alerted the police. The police have come, and she comes back. She's like, "Oh, I just had a bad day." She's like, "It wasn't anything." So she's lying about being kidnapped, and you start to slowly piece together that in the first like 2 episodes, so this isn't really a spoiler, that her ex-husband that she had 10 years prior, played by John Hamm, who is like, I think he's modeled off of like that one Arizona sheriff that like was very controversial. The one that was like, do you know who I'm talking about? I can't remember his name.
Yes. Oh my God, what was his name? Oh, it's on the tip of my fucking tongue.
Yeah. So he's like this guy. So John Hamm plays like this sheriff named Roy Tillman, who is a quote unquote constitutionalist sheriff. He's also very religious. He believes that a woman belongs to a man. He is a libertarian. So these are all like red flag checks, right? And he wants his wife back. His wife in quotation marks, because she's no longer his wife. And so he has sent these people. His son slash her son is played by Joe Keery from Stranger Things, who is like a scary sheriff, police officer who's kind of adult as well. And so it's just like this. We have like her husband's rich family that that don't like Dot, Juno Temple's character Dot, and so we have that. We have her trying to fight off like her ex-husband. We have the cops being involved, the local police being involved, and it's just like this great Fargo-esque story that I'm just so thrilling. There's a lot of there's 2 sequences of home invasion. One set on Halloween night, where the invaders are wearing like Nightmare Before Christmas masks. And it's just so that it pushes into the horror envelope a lot more than I think any of the previous Fargos have. And it is damn good. And I cannot wait to see where it's going to go from here.
Joe Arpaio.
Joe Arpaio, yes.
I texted Steve and I was like, who was the man who did all the bad things at the border? And he says Joe Arpaio. And I'm like, I'm actually quite impressed that you got that.
Thanks, Steve.
And he said sheriff in Maricopa County, Arizona. Steve Bartlett, everybody. King.
But yeah, so so he feels a little bit modeled off of that kind of ilk of sheriffs.
Okay.
But it is
I've seen memes of him.
Yeah.
In this.
He has fucking nipple rings.
Okay, so this is the thing that I need to do. I need to watch the show because every season everyone is like, this is the best season yet. You know what I mean? I feel like every season is really good. And I like this because you've seen the movie Fargo, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good, I love the inversion of his perspective of having his wife kidnapped. She is from the perspective of the woman getting kidnapped and then extending that story. I love that so much because, you know, we always see the shitty guy, like, trying to figure it out. But the woman who gets ugh.
And one of the...
I just love it.
Same. It's so good. And Juno Temple is so fucking good in this.
I'm so glad she's getting her flowers, by the way. Like, I've loved her for a while, but then, like,
same.
she was in Ted Lasso, and now she's doing that. I'm like, yes, Juno Temple. Everybody loves
so
her,
good.
please.
But it also has Risha Morjani, who was in Never Have I Ever, which was the show, it's a Netflix comedy show by Mindy Kaling. So she was in that.
Oh,
She was really good in that, and she plays like a local police officer here who's like investigating what's happening, and she's like severely in debt. Her husband is Lucas Gage, who is, you know, familiar to the horror realm as well. And so there's a lot of like, it's so good. I highly recommend it. It's on Hulu.
All right.
Yeah, so let's keep the TV train running, because I was actually thinking about this, so I'm mine's linking. Let's talk about chilling, literally, horror TV. Let's keep that vibe.
Well, and also anthology TV with standalone seasons.
Perfect.
So coming out this Sunday on Max / HBO Max is the new season of True Detective. So it's True Detective Season 4 and True Detective Night Country, directed by Issa Lopez of Tigers Are Not Afraid fame.
Love her.
And dear listeners, I am so excited to report that it absolutely fucks. It is the best season of True Detective. It fucking rules. Issa Lopez made something incredibly poignant and also really scary and nasty. Oh. And it's matriarchal, and it's about Indigenous people, and it's got really shitty women in it, and it's really good. But let me back up a little bit here. So this season takes place in Ennis, Alaska. Think like Barrow, Alaska, 30 Days of Night. Like, they have long periods of darkness in the winter. And the cold open of the season is essentially something happening to a group of researchers who are living in an Arctic research base outside of town. Yes, you are getting the Thing vibes.
I was just going to say.
Obviously, very much plays into that, but it is not like the Thing at all.
Yeah.
But again, like, and in like an interview I was lucky to do with her, she was like, yeah, like, you can't not think of the Thing, so might as well like have some homages to it while also doing something different, because like you can't run away from that.
Right.
So she leans into it in some really cool ways, which I will not spoil, but let me just tell you, there is some fucked up imagery in this that is incredible. I'm
so excited.
But so Police Chief Danvers, played by Jodie Foster, is on the case. And she is trying to figure out, like, where did these guys go? And her ex-partner, Detective Evangeline Navarro, played by Kaylee Reese, who is newcomer. She was in Catch the Fair one, but she started as a championship boxer. She's a fucking badass. But she's amazing in this. So, and she's an Indigenous woman. So there's an Indigenous woman playing an Indigenous cop, which is amazing. And so she's interested in this case because she believes there is a link to the murder of an Indigenous woman named Annie a few years ago, who was discovered stabbed multiple times with her tongue cut out. And she had been recently protesting the pipeline construction that was causing pollution, that was like getting people sick, mostly Indigenous people that were native to the area. And she was protesting and she turned up dead. They never found out why. The case closed. Jodie Foster's character moved on, but Navarro never let go of it because she's another woman missing that she can't find. And so they basically end up teaming up, even though they kind of still hate each other, and try and figure out what happened to these men and what is going on in their town. You know, pretty basic in that kind of idea. But what's really amazing about this is this is a show that is tackling issues of Indigenous people head on. Especially awesome from Issa Lopez, who is a Mexican woman who has made a lot of stuff. A lot of her movies, like Tigers Are Not Afraid, are modeled off of social justice, speaking up for colonized people, speaking up for people who don't have a voice. And so while she herself isn't Indigenous, she has tons of Indigenous actors in this. Isabelle LeBlanc, who was in Pet Sematary Bloodlines as Manny's sister, is also in this. Yeah, and so it's really good casting and a lot of talking about Indigenous identity and losing, like, what it means to not be allowed access to your culture versus, like, denying yourself access to your culture. And there's a lot of really cool stuff going on there. And then layered underneath all of this is this, like, what the fuck is going on in Ennis, Alaska? Like, is it spooky? Is it what? And what I love about this is that, like, Issa Lopez never gives you a straight answer, but never tries to make it like, haha, it was all in everyone's head. Like, there's a lot of, like, really more explicit playing with the supernatural in this one, which I love.
Me too, because I think that was, like, for horror fans, one of the kind of disappointing ways that the first season ended was, like, it seemed like it was moving into more cosmic horror territory, and then it sort of deflated towards the end, which I still liked it, but as a horror fan, wanting, like, getting that tease of supernatural, hearing this kind of makes me excited too.
Yeah, like, in my review, I literally write, like, it's not just whispers of the King in Yellow and Carcosa. These are actually specters on the ice. Like, it's horror from the first scene moving forward. Oh. It's just so incredible the way that it is about identity and your place in the world, and also tries to reckon with cops, being a cop and being an Indigenous cop, and also having these two incredibly complicated women who, like, aren't nurturing, aren't kind, are kind of rough around the edges, are broken, and letting them be really broken in really interesting ways. And focusing on female stories in this one, like, very, very, like, femme woman focused. Like, there obviously are male characters, but this is about women's experiences and how women interact with the world and what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a white woman versus an Indigenous woman and all that stuff. And I just think there's so much. It's so smart. I fucking loved it. It's also got really nasty shit in it too. It's like the perfect... Yeah, exactly. It's perfect wintertime viewing, of course. Like, it's all fucking freezing cold. I typically, like, I don't usually watch every single episode of a show when I'm doing a junket. I'll watch most of them. I watched the entire season in, like, 2 days. Shit. I was lucky enough to get access. I watched the whole thing. I was really lucky enough to get access to the entire season. Yeah, it's fucking good. Yeah. Oh. I'm so stoked. And the reviews are really good. And Issa Lopez, everyone, we've been telling you, and I'm so excited that she got this opportunity because I do think it's going to reach even more people. And I'm really glad that HBO gave her this chance because I think that it's probably, like, the smartest decision they could have made.
I mean, she seems primed for, like, this. Like, this seems, like, right up her alley with, like, Tigers Are Not Afraid. Like, this is...
She wrote and directed every episode. She had a writer's room. She had some people write other episodes, but she directed every single episode. She wrote most of the season. She's had this idea forever, like a similar idea, and then they brought her in and she's like, I got it. And yeah, it's just like...
Good for her.
So good.
That's so awesome. I'm so excited to watch it.
Yeah, it's fucking good. I'm so stoked how good it is. I was worried. I was like, you know, but then I was like, there's no way. And I was like, ugh. And the ending is so good too. It's just, like, very satisfying all around. So yes, that starts on Sunday, 9 p.m. on Max. Please watch it, everybody.
I'm going to. This is going to be event programming for me. Oh, it's premiering on my birthday.
Honestly, though...
How cool.
Hell yeah. Oh my god, I totally... brain fart about what day it was and how close your birthday was.
Me too. I realized that today. I was like, oh shit.
But yeah, and I do have a feeling, and I hope I'm not wrong, but I think I will be right that, like, this will be, I think, like, water cooler type conversation programming. I'm really hoping people watch it. The reviews and everything has been so positive. Like, I have been, like, yelling about it on Twitter. And, like, it's scary. Like, I keep talking about it being, like, political, and I love that, but, like, it is scary. Like, there's real good scares. So, please watch it. I'm like, I just want this to do well. Ooh, and we're going to move even more. I love it. Oh, look at it. Love the adaptation, because we're talking more about true crime. Hate watching a scandalous true crime series. Which one? There's so many. I love them all. They're all terrible.
Everyone has been talking about this on Twitter, and so I finally last week, and my roommate watched it, and so last week I sat down and started watching The Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which is about, let's see if this sounds familiar at all. A rich white family, adopts a young girl from the Ukraine who is 6 years old, and they start to believe that she is actually an adult who is masquerading as a 6-year-old. That is like the basic initial premise.
Huh.
And
I've heard that one before.
Right. But this 6-year-old Ukrainian orphan has a rare bone growth disorder. She is she's a little person. She has a severe disability in her legs. I can't remember what it's called, but there's like something that causes her. She has to have like specially made boots that cost thousands of dollars so she can walk without hurting herself.
Oh,
she had to use like crutches, and she just a lot of things that were like physically wrong with her bones, on top of being a little person. And so she gets brought over to the US. Immediately her parents start to tell everyone that they don't think that she's actually 6 years old. They're saying that she has pubic hair. They're saying that she is smarter than a 6-year-old. And all of this is going on. They have interviews with like the neighbors who are like, yeah, they're telling me all this stuff that she's doing. All of a sudden she starts threatening the family. They're saying that she is like hoarding knives, that she tried to poison her mom, that she is standing at the edge of the bed holding a knife. This all sounds very familiar. And this all happened after the movie The Orphan comes out. It turns out early on in the season that these parents might be lying. And they also re-aged her. They go to the courts and actually re-aged her to be 22 years old. And then they drop her into a small town in Indiana by herself, and they move to Canada as a 6-year-old, but they say that she's 22. And so it is a very sad story about a very rich white family that is probably doing horrible things to this kid. And the first season is about that aspect of it and sort of picking apart their stories, because the family's saying one thing, the evidence is kind of pointing to another thing. When she is dropped off in this small town, it ends up becoming a police matter, because the adult education center that she was going to as a 6-year-old, thinking everyone's saying that she's 22, get involved, and they call the police, and it turns into this big whole thing. And so the first season is about this.
Christ.
And the more and more the story goes on, the more wild. And I have a icky feeling talking about something that happened in real life being twisty and wild, because it's real people. And I think that is why I was watching the first season. There's 2 seasons out, because the second season is called Natalia Speaks, and it's her perspective, right? Yeah, so we finally get to see her perspective and hear her side of the story after seeing all the evidence in the first season. And it's very interesting. It's very, I think I think what happened is very important. But I was sitting here going, why does this show make me feel icky? And it was in the middle of the second season that it sort of clicked with me. It is filmed like it's a reality TV show, like like a Real Housewives. Like there's dramatic music, there's like reenactments. TLC. Yes, there's reenactments that happen. There's like the big centerpiece of season 2 is Natalia, a conversation with Natalia and her first adopted father, that is like, it's staged so grossly, where they have it all set up, and her current, like there's a whole convoluted story, but her current family that she's trying to get adopted to is very religious, and her father standing outside with her with an earshot of her adopted father calling him and just like praying to God and Jesus, and it's like obviously he is right there while the other person's right there, and it feels so staged, and it feels so gross, because it does feel a little bit manipulative and a little bit like in the way that we watch trash TV, but this isn't trash TV. This is a serious fucking case about a 6-year-old, potentially,
who was
that was
abused,
dropped in a city, in an apartment, on a second floor apartment where she's disabled. She cannot get up the stairs very easily. She's a 6-year-old who doesn't have money. Her power gets, like, it's just like, it's an incredibly sad story. It's incredibly sad that this happened to this person. And we're kind of making a spectacle out of it in a way that we would Real Housewives or something. And it clicked in that. And it just makes me, like, I wanted to watch it because I wanted to know more about Natalia and this and what's going on. But I felt gross watching it. So that's why I say hate watching it, because I wanted to know what was going on with Natalia and see see if her life is improving at all since leaving that horrible family. And it made me feel gross while I'm watching it. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen similar sentiments online of like, what? Like, this is a kid who was literally abused by their family.
Yeah.
And like, ooh, this is not funny. Like, this isn't like a fun thing to watch. And I think people are happy that they have her perspective. But like, I also remember when the first season was airing, everyone was like, wait, her parents are just like shitty or like just terrible people. So it's just like that sick thing of like, it reminds me of like TLC. It's like, oh, you're gonna kind of take advantage of these people for ratings a little bit. And it's weird. It's just like that's why I stopped watching 90 Day Fiancé. They're not even remotely the same. I am not saying they are the same at all.
It's real people.
But it's the vibe. It's just like that vibe of taking real people situations and making them, like you said, a spectacle for entertainment without like any of the other context of their life, and it's just like a little bit squicky. Especially with Natalia Grace, it's like this is a child.
Yeah, and like the things that are alleged to have happened with her is just like it's so gross. It's so gross. It's so frustrating. It's so horrible. It's harrowing in some spots, and the fact that is being tied to something that feels very creepily produced, just it icks me out. And so I wanted to stop watching it, but I also wanted to know kind of what was going on. And so what her story, what is happening to her side of the perspective is so enthralling, and yet so that's what's making me get through it. But at the same time, it just feels gross and manipulative.
Yeah, exactly. And it's constantly questioning like her age and like, if she's telling the truth. And it's like, all right, this is just like kind of ableist. Like, we gotta stop. Like, it's just like very ableist. And also she's Ukrainian. I know that she grew up here, but like, you know, there's probably a little bit of a communication barrier, especially if her fucking family like didn't take care of her. I haven't watched the show, so I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of turn about her ability to communicate. I don't know if that's true.
The sadness starts immediately because her mom was kind of, there's like a brief snippet with her mom in I think the second season where they managed to contact her right before, or it was either right before or right during the Russian invasion. And so like this is all happening almost in real time, which gives it also kind of an icky feel to it. But she was kind of, from her perspective, told to kind of, that almost forced to give up her daughter because they said that the surgeries that would have to be done to fix her bones and her legs would cost thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars. And they sort of, almost on the day that she was given birth, took the kid away from her and put her in an orphanage from her mom's perspective in a way. And so like her whole life has been hellish from the very beginning, being in the orphanage, then coming here and then getting into this other family. It's just, I don't know if I recommend watching it. But I do think there's an important story here at the same time. So I just do with that as you will, listeners. It's on Max, the first 2 seasons, but that's The Curious Case of Natalia Grace. Which it also grosses me out that it's like a rhyme for the title.
It's like that. It's like Gypsy Rose Blanchard is out of prison now, and everyone wants to be obsessed with her too. And it's like all the same. Like all these. It's just like, I don't know. Something about our culture is just very icky right now. All of that.
Yeah. Let's pick up the mood a bit. I want to hear about this wholesome and melancholy anime.
So I love this anime so much. It's brand new. I am so excited to be talking about it because it is one of my favorite animes in a long
I was
time.
like, wait, is it the Delicious Dungeon or something? Is that
No, it is not Delicious in Dungeon. I've only seen one episode of that, and I have to watch more. But this is Frieren. Hold on, Frieren Beyond Journey's End, which is currently airing on Crunchyroll. We're still in the first season, and it is essentially what takes place after a massive like adventure. Basically, like, okay, when the adventurers come back from slaying the massive enemy, like what are their lives like after that? Like what does it mean to live after that kind of thing? With the main focus being Frieren, an elf who basically learns she's essentially immortal, but then her human companions are not. So it's a lot of her seeing her friend, like her really close companions age and die, and then kind of learning about these human concepts of like mortality and caring about each other. And then she inherits a apprentice, a young girl named Fern, who is also so she's an elf. So Frieren is an elf mage, and she trains Fern to be a mage as well. She's a human mage. She's very good, and it is essentially following their lives as just like being countryside mages, as their party grows. And it's not your typical anime where it's like they're fantasy fighting all the time, like crazy battles. It's much more introspective, and like each episode is like there's an overarching story, but each episode it's like its own contained adventure inside of that bigger story arc. So, like, if they have an enemy they're fighting, it's only one episode. It's not this, like, long saga. It's, like...
Okay.
And it's more about... Instead of it being about, like, the epicness of the battle, it's about, like, Frieren's memories, or about that, like, accessing memory, or kind of learning more about humanity and compassion. Because she is the most neurodivergent female character I've ever seen on screen. I'm obsessed with her. She is, like, confirmed asexual character. And also, like, the way she acts is incredibly, like, autistic coded. And there's been memes online of, like, neurodivergent girl Winter, because she is very much like, I do not understand why you do these things. Like, what do you mean? And it's just, like, it's very much, like, that kind of representation. And I really enjoy it. It's really silly. It's also quite melancholy, but it's also just very sweet. And if anyone's ever watched Mushishi, which is one of my all-time favorite animes ever, it's a similar vibe of being like following these. It's more about the characters than the fights. It's more you care about them and how they're going through the world and like learning about the world rather than how they fight, kind of thing. So it's a much more kind of introspective show that has made me cry on several occasions, and it's like my new favorite thing I'm watching right now. One of my new favorite things I'm watching right now.
That sounds really good.
It's really good, and it's like it's really good, beautiful animated fantasy. But again, it's like not about like big crazy battles, but just about like being a person and learning about the world and humanity. It's just very sweet, and you don't usually get to see kind of a weird female character like this, and This is why I love that it's weird. I feel like it's weirdo
as a main character, in particular, too.
Yeah. Both of the female characters are like weird neurodivergent girls who are really, really talented and also just kind of weird. And it's just chef's kiss, 10 out of 10, obsessed with it. It is on Crunchyroll. It's still premiering. They have up to episode, I think, 14 or 15 dubbed. I'm watching the dub. The voice acting is really good. The English voice acting. So I highly recommend. I love the voice actor for Frieren. So yeah. Highly recommend. I always say this when I recommend anime on here, because I'm like, if you don't like anime, I promise you'll like it. It's because a lot of anime people will like, if they like, this is much more, it's anime, but it's not as like fighting anime. Mm-hmm. It's very like sweet fantasy. So highly recommend.
Yeah, I pulled it up on IMDb, and the trailer was playing, and I really like the animation style.
It's so beautiful.
And this plot sounds right up my alley, so I might have to give this one a go. You said it's on Crunchyroll?
Yeah, and it's like there's all these like flashbacks to when they were doing the original quest to kill the demon king, and she like will flashback. Like you learn about her quest to kill the demon king through flashbacks with her companions when they were younger, and you can like see how you get to see her memories and how her memories inform her present, and it's just like I don't know, it's just really sweet.
Okay, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and sign up for Crunchyroll. I've been like inching in that direction to the point that like for some reason my account was like locked down and I had to like unlock it through them, and so like I'm moving in this direction, and this might be the tipping point for me. I'm gonna have to give that one a shot.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes, highly recommend that one for everybody. But now, I think it's probably pretty different here. Old school blockbuster filmmaking at its finest.
So I finally, and this is going to be quick, but I finally watched the new Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which played this summer. And oh my God, Mary Beth, this reminded me what I missed from blockbuster movies. This movie is action-packed, physical stunts, practical effects, with some CG, I'm assuming, but like still, it does not look fake. All of the shots that probably are enhanced through CG do not look like the typical blockbuster we get today. And there's car chases, there's explosions, there's like fantastic chases. This movie is what I want from blockbuster filmmaking today that we are sorely lacking, and it reminded me why blockbuster movies used to get my butt in seat. It's long. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes. It is a long movie.
Oh God.
But it did not feel long. I was like riveted from the very beginning. It is just like the pacing is really good. The story is really interesting. It's about this rogue AI that was on the sub that in the opening scene ends up like going rogue and causing the submarine to attack itself basically and crash at in the ocean. And there's a MacGuffin. There's a set of two keys that when put together turns into a real key that will unlock the AI. A little silly, MacGuffin-y, but this AI is still propagating across the world, and so it is able to sort of infiltrate different technologies and also manipulate technologies, so that if people are using like glasses that add like overlays and stuff, it can change what you're seeing. And so really there is like a race of time against human people that are trying to unlock this for nefarious reasons, the US government, which is also trying to use it for nefarious reasons, and then also Tom Cruise's little IMF buddies who are trying to get this key and keep it out of everyone's evil hands. And so like it is thrilling. It has some fantastic actresses in it. Haley Atwell, who was in the Marvel movies, Peggy Carter, is that what her character's name was?
Oh yeah, yeah.
She plays this like thief that ends up getting pulled into this whole thing on accident, kind of. And we have Rebecca Ferguson returning. We have Vanessa Kirby, who I saw recently in Napoleon. Did not care for Napoleon, but she's in this. We have Palm Clementieff, who was Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Okay. Yeah.
She's in this as like a badass assassin. It's just like there are some fantastic characters in this, and it's funny, it's action packed, it's paced incredibly well for being a 2 hour and 43-minute movie. I love this movie. I love this movie so much.
Okay. All right. I've never seen a Mission Impossible movie.
I mean, like they're fun. I haven't seen all of them. This is like the first one I've seen in like a long time because I missed.
Okay.
I think I've seen the first 4 or 3, and then there was like a couple ones that I missed, and you don't really need to know. Like there's a couple characters that have continued on, but you don't really need to know anything. There's pretty self-contained stories in my opinion. There's a little bit of like things that you might miss, like small Easter eggs. But in terms of like spectacle and in terms of seeing that this kind of filmmaking can still happen, I loved it. It was a breath of fresh air for me.
All right. I'm excited. I do need to watch Mission Impossible movies, so I am excited. This lights a fire under my ass to start my journey.
You know, and they're wild. Like the first one is done by Brian De Palma. The second one is a
that's
John
what's
Woo
wild
film.
to me.
J.J. Abrams did the third one. Like, it's like I think that's what I appreciate about him is that each one feels very different because they have a different director that is, spearheading the story. And so they each play to their strength. Like the John Woo one is very silly in terms of like over the top action stuff. And the Brian De Palma one is very twisty and old school stylistic filmmaking, cinematography and whatnot. So like, I think it's a fun series that is each episode feels like a kind of different kind of storytelling in a way.
All right.
It's worth a shot to watch, I think. And this one is great.
Hell yeah.
All right. Weird Vibes, the movie.
I'll make this one quick too, but I watched a little movie that I was actually quite surprised by called The Seating, which I believe you actually might have seen.
I have seen it, yeah.
Have you talked about it on the show? I don't think you have.
I did briefly talk.
You did? Okay, I couldn't remember if you had or not. Because when did you see it? Tribeca?
I think so. It was it was sometime last year.
Yeah.
So you liked it?
I just want to make sure I did do it. Yes. So I really, really liked it. It's very much a vibes forward movie. This is directed by Barnaby Clay. This is his first movie. And it basically, a guy essentially falls into a pit, and there's a woman that lives at the bottom of the pit in a little house, played by Kate Lynn Sheil, who was in She Dies Tomorrow, an iconic film forever. And he is trying to get out of the pit, and there are weird boys at the top of the pit who yell at him, and he doesn't understand what's going on. And neither do you for most of the movie. But it's like, if you buy into the vibe, especially of just like, I don't know where this is going, but it's probably somewhere weird. Yes, you are taken to a very weird place. And I am obsessed with that weird place that it goes to. It becomes a very fascinating look at gender dynamics. And I was very into it. I don't want to talk about it too much with it. Let's like spoil, because it's kind of like a movie you have to experience the ride. But it's very dream logic-y, very like, I don't get it, and then it ends and you're like, oh my god, I want to watch that again kind of situation for me, personally. It is coming out on January 26th to digital and VOD, and it's definitely a weird one, but I think that this is one that could really get on people's radars if you like weird shit. Like, if you liked The Outwaters, I feel like you would kind of vibe with The Seating. Not that they're that similar in like story and everything, right. But it's like that kind of weird deserty nightmare logic, and things get kind of fucked. There's like similar kind of energy going on there. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody, because it's pretty impressive for what it for it, and I feel like it could easily get buried, and I don't want it to get buried.
Yeah, I remember being kind of, it's been a minute, but I do remember being a little mixed on it. But yeah, I think vibe movie is definitely a good descriptor for it.
Like, it's all vibes. You're not really going to get much explanation, but if you're willing to just like ride the vibe, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and it was Tribeca. I just pulled it up. Yeah. Goodness.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very assured. It's very, I think, confident in what it's doing, and I really applaud that. It's not going to be successful for everyone, but I really enjoyed it.
I do think it might be one of those movies that would benefit not seeing like in a huge, festival, like move back to back to back.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's true. It's definitely a movie, if you have festival brain rot, you're going to be like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's The Seating. Recommend if you like vibes forward. Speaking of vibes, but like really putrid ones.
Yes.
What movie did I make you watch this week?
So you made me watch, I say made, but you made me watch a movie that opens with a child being shot in the head. And I was like, yep, this is a Bryan Bertino movie. I watched this in my hotel room the first night.
Oh, hell yeah.
That I was on my work trip. First night, I'm like, I don't know how much time I'm going to have in the evenings to watch things, so I'm going to watch this now so I can be prepared for little cuts. And I'm like, yep, this is a Bryan Bertino movie. The moment a little kid gets shot, he's saying, fuck them kids in the opening sequence of this movie. But we watched Mockingbird, Bryan Bertino's foray into found footage films about a variety of people that are given a video. And I think, did you talk about this on the podcast before, briefly?
I did, because I found this during the pandemic. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. Ugh.
Yeah, I thought so. Man. But it's about a husband, wife, and kids who get a videotape. A young college student woman who is given a videotape, and then some man that's living with his mom who is given a videotape and is given these weird tasks to paint himself as a clown and go do increasingly more uncomfortable things as the movie goes on. And they're told to keep filming. And then it turns into sort of like a Strangers-esque home invasion at points for each of these different, for each of the family and the young college student. And I sat there going, how is this all going to come together? And that is what like really intrigued me, was how all of these storylines were going to fit together. And so that's my initial impression of this movie.
I love this movie. I know everyone. Letterboxd fucking hates this movie.
Oh, do they?
Yes, and I don't get it. I disagree. I like this movie quite a bit. Obviously, I've talked about it before. I think it's Bryan Bertino nihilism in found footage form, and I love that. Like the fact that it opens with in the dark, and it's not until they open the box and get the camera out. Like that's just, I love it, and I wouldn't claim that it necessarily does anything like brand new with the format. No. But I think it uses the format really smart, like really well. I think it does a lot, like it knows how to use the found footage format to frame really good shots that will make you like, what the hell is going on? The use of lightning is really smart, and revealing things and revealing. And I think it's got that. I've written about this movie before, in that it's another one of his movies that is like the inevitability of being a randomly chosen kind of person and being in the wrong place at the wrong fucking time and putting your name in the wrong goddamn waiver form, like signing the wrong thing, and you just ended up as part of this weird fucking scheme, and like, sorry, you're stuck. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. And I think he does it well. It's Blumhouse. This is a Blumhouse movie too.
Yeah, I was surprised when that showed up.
It's Blumhouse, and I have a feeling. And maybe it'll be me that starts it. It's like, I think that this movie should have a reappraisal for like how people talk about it, because I do think it's very smart. I don't think it's as dumb as some people want to say. I think it came out at a bad time.
I think the problem with this film is that it was his follow-up to The Strangers, and it feels a little bit like, some of it reminds me like, oh, this feels very Strangers / it's found footage. And so I think there are moments of that like, if you were to go from The Strangers to this, you might see this as sort of an inferior movie. Yeah, just because true. We are coming from, I mean, The Strangers is an all-time classic in my opinion. It is a classic home invasion movie, and this has a lot of similar feels to it. And I do think that because it was his follow-up to it, it made me feel a little bit like Blumhouse is like, we want to have another low-budget version of The Strangers, and so I feel like that there might be some of that at play. But I agree with you. I think that with years separation, it's definitely due for reappraisal.
This movie gave me nightmares when I first saw it. Like I have a thing where like, I don't know what the fuck it means, but like I have reoccurring dreams and reoccurring places that appear in my dreams, and one of the reoccurring places is the guest house from this movie is like a reoccurring place in my dreams. I don't get it. I don't know why. But, like, this movie has, like, weirdly imprinted in my brain for reasons I don't fully get. So, like, you know, once again, it's my personal attachment to it. But I think because I watched this in the pandemic, like, when I was really getting into found footage, and I was, like, really just, like, hyper-focused on that, especially being stuck in the house all day, I think, like, I just really imprinted on it and, like, what it's doing and what it's saying and the way it ends. And, like, I hate the clown character, but I love the way he functions as this, like, kind of commentary on, like, how certain people are willing to do anything. Like, he's got these ranges of reactions, and I think it's smart to have this, like, shitty dude. And, like, you kind of feel bad for him, and you're kind of like, what is his end goal? And then you realize the tragedy of it all at the end when you're just like, oh my God. Like, it's all just I just think Brian Bertino's really smart and, like, plots things in a really smart way in terms of, like, when it all comes together. It's like, you guys were fucked from the beginning, and I just love that about his work. And I think, like you said, I think watching it, like, after The Strangers, it's like, oh, buddy. But it's like, actually, it's really smart. He just, like, it's so hard to follow the fucking strangers.
It really is. Like, it just is.
But I still think it's, like, really scary shit with this movie, especially with found footage. Like, I still got scared watching it this time, and I hadn't seen it in a couple of years, but I was like, this movie is scary. I think it's scary.
Yeah, like, normally, you know, when I'm at home, I will watch everything on my big screen TV, and this I had my iPad, and I was watching it off my iPad, and I had it, like, close to my face, and I was sitting there, and the lightning, it's so funny that you brought up, because I literally wrote, the use of lightning to illuminate pitch black is chef's kiss, because I love moments like that. And it reminded me of, like, Saw, in the original Saw, where the guy is walking through and he's using his camera to, like, illuminate, and you're just waiting. Or towards the end of Host, even, where she's, like, also using a very similar kind of thing to try to illuminate what's in front of her. That is like a kink for me. Those types of things I love. And listeners, if you're not watching, Mary Beth just flicked her tongue and it made me laugh. But I love that. I love that. And here it is. There are some fantastic uses of that. There's also some really kind of Stranger-esque moments of, like, there's the young college woman, she gets in the car and she's leaning over the steering wheel to try to start it, and she leans back and there's someone standing out of her view briefly, and then she leans back and he's gone. I'm like, oh, that kind of stuff. The stuff where you have to, like, pay attention to see it and there's no attention brought to it, and you're almost like, wait, was that a person? Oh shit, now it's gone. It's just like that is catnip to me. So
it's my favorite.
I did have a question. What do you think of the red, white, and blue coloring throughout?
I love it. It is American nihilism at its finest, homies. It is fuck America, because we've got the domestic we've got, you got me on my goddamn high horse now. We've got, like, the beautiful family, like, the domestic, like, mother. And I love this couple, by the way, because I love a good, like, found footage couple that don't actually actively hate each other. And in 2014, that's kind of hard to find. But we've got, like, the ideal couple in the house. But then we also have,
Two
like,
kids.
The young woman who is, like, going out on her own. And then there's who lives alone, and, like, that's very dangerous. Then there's, like, the gross guy. And so there's these really interesting,
is he kind of an
like,
incel, do you think?
Yeah, I have that vibe of, like, before we had the kind of the incel, like, it's like the neckbeard. I feel like it's like the language you would use in 2014 is, like, the vernacular we would use. But it's like he's grabbing all of these disparate...
You know he owns a fedora.
Oh, yeah. He's, like, grabbing these, like, disparate kind of, like, demographics of America and putting them all through the same hell.
On a collision
like,
course.
With no real reason other than, like, random. And, like, they're all different people... But they fall into archetypes, too, because, you know, they call them the family, the woman, the clown. So you have, like, these archetypes that he's playing with. But I think the red, white, and blue is very much, like, a middle finger to America and, like, expectations of safety.
That's why I had to bring it up. Here, let me help you up onto that horse.
I know. I was like, Terry knows what he's doing by saying, hey, Mary Beth, what do you think about the red, white, and blue colors? And it's like, well, I'm glad you asked, Terry. Let me tell you about something called 9/11. Have you ever heard of it? Did you forget?
I also love the use of classical music. Because there's a lot of classical music throughout. We have Moonlight Sonata. We have a bunch of other ones that are very recognizable, even if you might not know the names. It's just, there's a lot going on here that I thought was really interesting.
There's so much stuff going on. It's so smart. It's creepy. It's got a weird ending. It's got a fucked up ending. They use red balloons a lot. Yeah, I think this is a found footage movie that more people should, like, either rewatch or, like, watch for the first time. If you like Bryan Bertino, you will like this movie. Like, I am not, by no means is it, like, better than The Strangers, and I'm not even sure it's better than The Dark and the Wicked, but it's
I
very,
wouldn't
it's
say
still,
so personally, but
it's still really good. Like,
yeah.
Just because it's not his best, it's better. It's his third movie in my head. because the monster is personally not. But again, I like all of his movies, so it's one of these things where it's like, it's not like I'm saying any of them are bad.
Right.
But Mockingbird is really good. Bryan Bertino doing found footage is Mary Beth McAndrew's catnip.
There we go.
So I'm glad you liked it. I was watching it and was reading Letterboxd stuff, and I'm like, oh no, I hope Terry liked it. But I was watching it, I'm like, I don't understand how people thought this was that bad. But again, I know the timing makes a lot of sense if people are because I was so far removed from like having seen The Strangers for the first time and everything.
Right.
So. But I am starting here the bandwagon to reappraise. I own Mockingbird. I have it somewhere on Blu-ray.
Wait, this is the 10-year anniversary this year.
All right, you're a Mockingbird, baby.
It is time for it to be reappraised because it is literally the 10-year anniversary this year.
10 years. It's so good. Anyway, watch it, guys. I promise you. You won't be disappointed. So yeah, that about does it for this week. But where are we continuing on our found footage journey?
Okay, we are continuing with the sort of post 9/11 vibes. We are going with Cloverfield, seminal found footage disaster film.
Hell yes! I'm
Haven't
very
seen
excited.
it in a
movie
very
in
long time. Very long
Neither
time.
have I actually just got. Oh, it's not in here. I got a really cool book that's just about like Cloverfield and horror. So maybe I'll do some reading of that before we talk about it too. Yeah, I'm excited.
I am too. I'm really excited to rewatch it because I was telling Mary Beth offline that I have this, the 4K Blu-ray of it, and I'm very excited. I haven't watched it, so I'm very excited to finally have a reason other than just pure enjoyment to like crack it open. But that's what we're going to talk about for Little Cuts. What about our episode on Monday, Mary Beth?
So on Monday, to celebrate our Patreon reopening, we are going to be sharing a preview of what you can expect for Fresh Wounds subscribers with our special Fresh Wounds episode about Terrified. We've all been talking about Demi and Rugna and When Evil Lurks, so might as well listen to why Terrified scared us so much. So yeah, get a little taste for our Patreon, and then maybe, hopefully, you can become a Patreon subscriber, which we would love, because we have some stuff coming up, and we would love to start raising some more funds through our Patreon.
And, it's a movie that comes up all the time on the podcast, so it only felt natural to, like, try to open it up a bit. Plus, with travel and everything, a little behind. Truthfully.
Yeah, for real. But listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Did you watch anything that we watched this week and have thoughts? Do you have suggestions for things for us to cover? You can send us an email You can send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us directly on Twitter or in social media. On Twitter, I am at mbmcandrews, and on Instagram, I am at mb.mcandrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful everywhere.
And of course, follow the podcast on social media. We are at Scarred Podcast on Blue Sky and Twitter, and at Scarred for Life Podcast on Instagram.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, please sign up through our Patreon. We had just released our new episode on Trouble Every Day. We're doing the French New Extremity. So we've done ones on High Tension, Inside, Frontiers, Fat Girl, Trouble Every Day. So come join us on our journey.
Please. Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.